So welcome back to the latest ITESOFT Insider View. Delighted to have you here with us, and once again also delighted to have Jamie here with us from VAT IT. So we've been going through a whole series and looking at a variety of different things and how your organisation, our organisation, and what we offer links together. For this episode, we're going to look a little bit at fraud, the impact of fraud, and how that is causing trouble for people, and how we can help support organisations in their fight against fraud. From a fraud perspective, a couple of kind of key facts for organisations. The last sort of global research that was done into this, about 50% of organisations admitted, and that's important, that they had been subject to and suffered from fraud in the previous year. I think it's probably fair to say the real number is a lot higher than that, but this is one of the challenges for people, isn't it? It's a topic people don't want to admit to. What is also clear is that a lot of the fraud that's happening is document based, because ultimately you need something to back up what your story is. And one of the things, therefore, from an ITESOFT perspective as an organisation where we are delivering benefit to our customers around digitalising a document, is what can we do to help? And what can we offer for companies in this area? If we look at a procure to pay process, obviously one of the first things you can do is put purchase ordering in place. That will drive an improvement and reduce likelihoods of fraud. Doesn't remove it, but reduces it. Now, you guys do a lot of work as well in the travel and expenses area, and that is another area where, to some extent, the worst kind of fraud, because it's your employee fraud, is happening, is occurring. So there's obviously an area around P cards that people can look at to try and address some of this. What are some of the reasons that people might want to go down that road, apart from fraud prevention?
Yeah, and I think when you said, the fraud is the worst type because it's employee fraud, we should remember the reason why P cards exist and they're functional, and it's something that's considered as viable is because ultimately the benefit outweighs the risks. Definitely. Of actually employee engagement, trusting your employees. There are still controls that you can put in place around limits, but no, absolutely, from our perspective, it can scare companies sometimes that there's a card linked to a commercial bank. So let's say you take it home and your daughter has access to it, and she hasn't been on her shopping spree yet, and she wants to go and buy some clothes, so she goes to Zara and Topshop and uses the P card. So I just think it's an avenue. It's an easy avenue for fraud, but there are very stringent ways that essentially you can mitigate that risk as far as possible. And then you've also got that tag on, as you said, of what's actually behind that transaction, what's there. So allowing companies the opportunity to reclaim the VAT back off the back of those expenses, where essentially you need some form of backing or support to that cost. So what we do with our clients that engage in P cards at the moment is essentially we work with them and understand their process. We develop a list of controls, we cleanse their data, we ensure that the classification of the expense is correct from a VAT compliance perspective, as well as then flowing into the accounting system. So it's a big thing on the travel side that now you have the P cards, which essentially is just a credit card for employees. And now they're becoming virtual cards as well, so actually you don't even necessarily have that physical card in place, which adds another layer of complexity. So we're in place working with our clients to ensure that the VAT recovery comes off the back of controls designated to make sure that the VAT recovery, as well as most importantly at entry, that expense type is compliant with as much of a reduced risk of fraud as is humanly possible with a controlled environment around that.
Okay, and I think from our side, obviously, the document itself, whether it's a receipt or it's a supplier invoice or it's some other kind of document, whatever it's being used for, whether it's a supplier invoice to your accounts payable or it's a copy of an invoice that's being used for an insurance claim. Nowadays, it is so easy to take a photograph of that, to open up an application and edit it. And one of the things that we offer to our customers is an ability to start identifying when that type of alteration has happened, so that we can flag potential fraudulent documents
and report on exceptions where there's like a predefined supplier list.
Absolutely. So it's both looking at specific things that suddenly seem wrong So an alteration has happened that means this purchase has happened at 3 a.m. in the morning from a shop, on a 29th of February in a year that there wasn't one.
It was your daughter going mad on the online shopping again.
Exactly. But also it's looking at, have they just changed the values? Maybe this is an insurance claim and something that officially actually cost £100 is being put in for an insurance claim because the receipt's been altered and an extra zero's added, and now it's an £1,000 claim, not a £100 claim. So how can you prevent that type of thing when you're looking at spend? One of the things that can happen from a fraudulent perspective, and with P cards as much as generic expenses, is that actually you go to a shop, you buy a perfectly valid product, and at the till you add a gift card for another £10. Well, the total receipt value is probably within an acceptable limit. The product you bought was okay, but there's this extra thing there that's quite clearly fraudulent, because that gift card is for you to use another day, not for the company. So looking at that from reading the document becomes really important to identify what's there. And as you say, it's then also, well, what are the other validations that you can do once you've read it? So it is, is this supplier really a valid supplier? Are on an accounts payable, are the bank details that they put on that the ones that you've already got in your ERP system? We're able to offer a mutualized supplier database, which is how we're able to achieve really high success rates of OCR and get that 85% throughput that we can guarantee. But that means we're actually able to see if for some reason you're being asked to pay a different bank account than someone else that's using that same supplier. Now that might be true. They might be changing their bank account. They might be using third parties as an invoice factoring process.
But it flags an exception.
But it flags something that looks as a warning. And actually people are being asked to pay the wrong supplier. So we've got that area of fraud. I think the other thing we've also got is obviously validating any other type of document that's coming through. So a lot of work we're doing is around know your customer. So are you who you say you are? Whether that's for an application for something, whether that's the validation for a loan, and we've got customers that have taken our solution and used this type of process to confirm the documents that they're receiving. Is it a real copy of your passport? Is it a valid passport? And so on and so forth, to enable applicants to get through the process online much more quickly, to notify them if the document they've submitted is unreadable immediately so that they can complete the process. Because we all know if you get halfway through a process, you think you've finished it, and then the organisation comes back to you in 3 days and goes, oh, we couldn't see that, could you send it again? It's too late, we've got bored, we've given up if we're not careful. So helping our customers to maximise completion rates of applications means they've got a much higher rate of conversion, and that's brilliant. So
you also discussed the copy of invoice point, and that links nicely to the maximisation of the completion rate. We like to maximise our clients' VAT yield, and generally if you have a copy of invoice where you need the original for a claim, essentially we have a reissues team that will go, obviously with your permission, and speak to the suppliers to essentially ensure that you have that VAT compliant invoice to maximise your VAT
exactly
yield.
That. And I think again, the rules change from country to country as to what's a legally compliant stored electronic version of a document.
Yes.
But again, ITESOFT is aware of that and is able to help our customers to ensure they've got that in each of the jurisdictions they're operating in, which means that when it comes to making these reclaims, it's not always necessary to go all the way back to the supplier to get the original, because the version you've already got in-house is a certified original, so we can make that process simpler, which is of benefit to the customers to ensure they can make that reclaim more quickly, because ultimately it's a process. You're going to government to get money, to ask for money back, aren't you?
Yes.
And they don't,
compliance first time round is easier.
It's quicker. You get that cash back as soon as you can, which is what we're trying to achieve, isn't it? How do we give our customers the maximum benefit to ensure everything that they can do can be done faster? And that's really important, isn't it? Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you for your time. I hope
Pleasure.
you've enjoyed this series that we've been able to put together with VAT IT for the ITESOFT Inside of You. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to the next episode and hope that you will be able to join us for that.
And I'd just like to say thank you so much for having me. We're very excited about this partnership with you and working together, and we feel that we can really add, and hopefully you've gauged from these sessions real value to our mutual client base, to new clients. So just thank you, really appreciate you having me here.
Brilliant, thank you for joining us.